You are about to begin watching the 11th episode of Brian's book Bastion. Relax, concentrate, dispel all of your thoughts. You're wondering, has the episode started yet, or are we still watching the cold open? You soon find out. Hello and welcome to a look at the most meta book I have ever read in my entire life. We are, of course, talking about If on a Winter's Night a Traveler by Italo Calvino. And this thing is definitive metafiction right here. Now, just a quick disclaimer here at the beginning because I haven't really looked at fiction yet, too extensively at least, and I've looked at more nonfiction and philosophy pieces. I've tried to decide how I'm going to handle spoilers with this channel, and I will just say right now there will be minor spoilers in this episode. So if that's something that bothers you, I will see you next week for a more general discussion on reading. But I won't be giving away the ending here or anything like that, but there will definitely be a look at the structure of the book and things that pop up all throughout this thing, and boy do they pop up. That cold open there at the beginning is about a direct mirror of the beginning of this book here, saying, "You are about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel, If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. Relax, concentrate, dispel every other thought. Let the world around you fade." Now, what an interesting way to start the book. It's not an I, it's not a he or a she or a they, it's a you. That's the first thing that grabbed me here with If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, is it's specifically talking to you, the reader. It's not supposed to be this random other person. It's literally talking to you. And it starts bringing up all these different situations of how you picked the book up in the first place, what books you passed over, like the books that I'll read eventually but will actually never get around to, or the nonfiction or anything like that. And it was funny because as I was reading this, I did start to have certain things that he was saying pop up around me. I think there was specifically something about a coffee shop or something like that, and I started this at a coffee shop and started to find some unusual connections to what he was saying and to what I was reading. Which, of course, is the point, and it kind of shows the brilliance of Italo Calvino to cover all of those various situations that you, the reader, could be in to really immerse you in the novel here. But let me tell you, that immersion is broken almost instantly. This novel goes through this very specific pattern where it talks about you reading this book, and then it goes into the actual narrative of the story. And so it does start out with If on a Winter's Night a Traveler, and you get the feeling that it's almost a mystery novel to some degree. And so you're following along with the plot at a train station, and there's a lot of details that are brought forth, and right as you get to the climax, it's over. You, the reader, are brought back in, and it follows your plot a little bit further about your dismay at finding that this new novel that you were so engrossed in was almost over before it started, because as you got to that climactic point there, at the point that you were reading, the novel shifts into something completely different. Turns out it's a publishing error. You have to go back to the store and get a new copy and find out just what happened. Your story as the reader starts to get mixed up in this other reader that you met at the bookstore, where you guys found a mutual conversation piece about the book that you're reading, and you guys both start to realize that there is a defection with the book, and you are wanting to get to the bottom of what exactly is going on with your novel. But you started the next novel, and so you want to figure out what's going on with that one now too. So then you actually get to start reading the plot of this other novel as if that was the book that you were supposed to be reading the whole time. And of course, right when you get to a climactic point, it's over again. This happens back and forth, where it keeps coming back to your dismay at not being able to finish any book that you've started, and then actually getting engrossed in the book that crosses your path later. And so you start to want to finish every single story that you come across, which actually that number becomes quite high by the time you get to the end of this thing. And so not only is the reader here in the novel frustrated that you aren't able to get to the finish there, you as the actual reader outside the book are starting to realize that you're never going to get a satisfying conclusion to any of the stories that are in this book. Now, I guess I said frustrating. It's not quite that. The thing is this book is what I would describe the perfect novel for a short story lover and the perfect short story collection for a novel lover. Now, not only are there a lot of serious stories in here, like I said, there's the mystery, there's a Western style story, there's a war story as well. You also get a lot of comedic relief throughout, not only in the short stories themselves, but also with this plot that's kind of tying it all together with you not being able to finish these books and all of the really, really strange reasons on why that is. There's also a long section about one of the authors that gets tangled up in this entire story, and you get to read into his diary, I believe it is, diary or journal, and it starts to become even more meta because you get the feeling that this writer is thinking and feeling a lot of the things that Italo Calvino might have been thinking or feeling while writing this book. And so you kind of get more of an insight into that. And he writes it in such a way that is, again, pretty funny, and then goes back to you, the reader. And so it's almost like he's the puppet master for not only everything that's going on inside of this book, but in reality itself. And I think that that is just insanely brilliant to do as an author. Brilliant! Now, this might be a subject matter that I tackle in another general discussion video later on, but something that made this novel even more enjoyable was the fact that I kept finding myself reading it in various settings. And so not only was there fragmentation with the different short stories that were going on throughout the whole thing, and the fragmented plot lines, I also found myself reading it in these very segmented places, and it added to the overall atmosphere of the novel, because not only did I read it in the coffee shop, like I said, I had parked outside of a lake while it was raining, right as the setting in one of the short stories was something similar to that with the rain, and it just really helped immerse that I was this reader that was reading If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. So meta. Now, I don't want to get too much deeper here because I don't want to spoil too much, because I really, really do recommend this book. I was so pleasantly surprised because this was my first Italo Calvino novel, and to be introduced with this is just incredible. And so definitely read this, but it's so well crafted that things do start to come together even past the plot line of finding these books, and it has a totally satisfying conclusion, at least in my opinion. A lot of times with these metafictional novels and postmodern novels, you can be kind of divided once the ending comes around, but personally, I loved the way this thing wrapped up. Now, it might be the reader's high, but I am definitely under the impression that I will be picking up more Italo Calvino novels in the future. I don't know too much about the guy. I just sort of started to research his life. Here in the back it said he was born in Cuba in 1923, and then spent most of his life in Italy, and I think the book was published sometime in the 70s. I think it might have been mid 70s, not 100% sure. Okay, 1979 here, and I know that this was one of his later novels, and so I'm curious to see how his style had developed over time, because you could definitely tell from the opening pages that he was kind of ruminating on being a successful writer and what it meant to be having a style that people are already used to and expecting, and how to write a novel despite all of those expectations. God, I love a good book, and that officially makes 6 for the year so far, and so we're moving right along on Brian's book Bastion. Again, I hope that your reading goals are going well. If you are looking for a book to read, definitely pick this up, or if you have some space on your list for later on in the year. Like I said, highly recommended. But for next week, I think it's going to be a discussion video. And then hopefully I'll be moving right along with a few of the books I've picked up recently. And I hope you can join me for those later episodes. You have now finished watching Brian's book Bastion. You enjoyed the review. You went down and clicked the subscribe button, and soon after clicked the like button. You weren't totally convinced the first time, so the oncoming white-lettered subscribe definitely changed your mind this time. Catch you next week.